I'm Lisa Connell, and I'm an assistant professor of French and international languages and cultures, and it's my pleasure to introduce Frank Beauvais' film, Ne croyez surtout pas que je hurle. Before going any further, though, I'd like to remind you about the wonderful opportunity we have to learn more about Ne croyez surtout pas que je hurle, thanks to the sponsorship of the College of Art, Culture, and Scientific Inquiry. There will be a Q&A event with Frank Beauvais via Zoom on Thursday, March 4th at 4 p.m. And you can register for this free event on the Tournées website, where you can access the films by going to the Special Events tab. Ne croyez surtout pas que je hurle premiered in 2019 to strong critical acclaim and depicts Frank Beauvais' emotional state for a period of 6 months after his breakup with his boyfriend of several years. During these months, Beauvais begins to watch hundreds of films from which he will eventually take clips and add his personal narrative to create Just Don't Think I'll Scream. Most broadly, the film engages with themes of isolation, violence, time, place, and identity with varying degrees of concreteness and abstractness. Without being an autobiography, the film invites us to think about the different forms and discourses we use to construct a self-portrait. In this sense, it offers an example of experimental self-narrative and works within and against the grain of autobiographical conventions by combining visual and textual narratives in intriguing and unpredictable ways. Beauvais is in fact very clear about his skepticism about autobiography, and wonders how he can work with the genre without succumbing to what he thinks are its self-centered and even narcissistic underpinnings. So in many ways, two questions the film asks are, how do we come to understand ourselves within a particular emotional, spatial, and historical moment? And also, what does it mean to create a self-narrative that is also responsive to the world around us? One approach to these questions might be to consider a very striking phrase in the film when Beauvais talks about his realization that the films he was watching were mirrors of his life, not windows. With this in mind, we might consider how Beauvais juxtaposes images with his voiceover, which at times strongly correspond to each other and at other times seem quite disconnected or in tension with one another. This isn't just about looking to see how he plays a lot with the rhythm of the images, which is highly variable, and his voiceover, which is quite stable, but how the narrative he writes expresses at times deep anguish, even as the images that we see can be quite playful or even irreverent. Another approach might also be to consider how Beauvais integrates historical references into the film and his narrative about his own personal emotional state and experiences. He intersperses references to violent events in 2016 in France, such as the terrorist attacks in Nice, as well as in the world, most prominently in the Middle East. In this way, he gives us an opportunity to think about how he navigates his own sense of personal loss and connects his despair to different forms and acts of violence. I hope that this has piqued your interest in Ne croyez surtout pas que je hurle. It's a dense, challenging, and intriguing film, and I hope that you're able to join the Q&A event to hear more about it from the director himself.